where this goes. But then again, I started going to school board meetings a few years ago. And they said, you know, you want to keep the levies, vote for the levies because you keep it under local control. This way we can basically have a voice on what our schools are doing. Well, as we all know, if anyone's gone to a school board meeting, they give you 3 minutes. They will cut you off at mid-sentence, and basically they'll never answer a question. So pretty much we're you know, speechless when it comes to that. Well, going to the board meetings, I started going to the budget meetings. I'm thinking, okay, what are they doing with this money? And what I found out is that 80% of their budget goes to wages and benefits. And then it's like, okay, well, we need teachers, and obviously, but then I found out the teachers are only a small percentage of their weight or of their personnel. Pretty much they've got, every school has multiple principals, they have administrators, and every administrator has not just one assistant administrator, how about multiple administrators? And of course those assistant administrators have to have support staff. And they got tons of support staff. And go back a little bit to COVID, that's where we really got in trouble, because with that COVID money coming in, they just kept going with their budget thinking, okay, we have this extra money. If they don't use it, they say we're gonna lose it, so they spent it all. And now, come that there's no more COVID money, now how are they gonna meet all the budgets? Because COVID, they allowed to put more people, personnel on, more assistants on, and so forth. So they just keep growing. They like government, they just grow with people. And by the way, on a side note, our Lake County Health Department, same thing, 75% of their budget is personnel. So when it comes down to it, that's where our problem is. And the thing is with the unions and with the benefits they get, and with the health care benefits, they get pensions and all that, those costs, and with the unions and their salary increases per the union regulations, it outpaces inflation. And then, of course, they all have more than 20 mills on the books and levies. Only 20 of those mills can they get increase in when the valuations go up. Well, on the outside mills, obviously that has to be factored down. So what they need to do now is, and the problem is that with that 20 mills, that's not enough to grow enough money, give them enough money to meet the inflationary needs with the growing payroll that they have. And for example, our school district, for the 5-year projection, went up $10 million just in wages, another $5 million in benefits. So again, they keep growing and growing, even their budget forecast. Well, like the representative said there, Madam Representative said, she said, basically we have to look at the budget, okay, and they don't have to accept that money. But here's the thing, with a municipality, for us, we submit our budgets, but it's an annual budget. But the school districts have to submit a 5-year budget. Okay, and this is where the game they play, okay, how they get us. Because we'll go ahead and they'll say, we're going to put a levy on the ballot. And basically it's not going to increase your taxes. No, it won't. But the problem is that was outside millage that has been factored down, which then becomes inside millage. Now the thing is that when they come to a sexennial revaluation like we just had, then all the values, they get an increase in the valuation without the vote of the people. And that's how they're playing this game. And then what they're doing with this, how they're doing it is with the mass appraisal method. You know, again, if the government gave me my land, I wouldn't mind paying property tax or paying rent to them. But I have to buy it. That's where I have the problem. And the other problem I have is that I'm voluntarily supporting our schools with these levies, but then they put the collection on a property tax, and then they penalize us for failure to pay if we run into some financial troubles. But not to mention, the problem with the inflation is that they built this mass appraisal method basically to fund the schools, to get them more money. You know, they put House Bill 920 to kind of regulate and cap them off, but then they increased the floor from 10 to 20, which then gave the school districts, which were only going to get 5 mil inside, because they have to share it with the rest of the county, now they're getting an extra 15 all to their own. So we have that, and then again, every time they grow, they never look at cutting costs, or always look at where are we going to get extra money at. So in our district, like I said, what they did was they counted on it. Now what they did was they knew with the 5-year projection, what they do is they put out a budget and they say, how many days cash will we have? And they present this to the board saying, okay, if you were in your household, say your income were to stop, how much reserve would you want put away, you know, as security, where how many months can you operate your house without any income coming in? And everyone was saying obviously 3 months, 6 months, a year, you know. And then this is, well, here's how the plan goes. And they went through the valuations. Now again, we're not supposed to, as a community, we're not supposed to rely on any valuations or increases, because again, our budgets have to be made for what we know is coming in. But with the school boards, they have to make a projection for 5 years, which means now they need to know what these, approximately what these revaluations are going to come in, so that whatever comes in under the 20 mil floor, they know what to expect extra, so they can basically match their budget to that. So in our district, what they did is back in May, they put together a projection. They said if the valuation come in at 17.5% increase, basically we will have only 30 days cash reserve at the end of the 5 years. And then they said if we made a projection, if it was 27.5% increase, we would have 60 days, 52 days cash at the end of the 5 years. So then they went ahead and said, well, what if we don't take the money, at all, this increase, which again, they have an option, they can or cannot. And they says, well, we'll be in the hole 30 days, which means we won't have any funding and we won't be able to operate. We'll have to shut the lights off 30 days before the 5 years. So they went ahead, they submitted that budget to our auditor's department. Now the auditor by law has to make sure that there's enough funding available for all the municipalities, the school districts, and so forth. That's by law. So what happens is they submit this budget. Now this budget is, like I said, for 52 days cash at the end of 5 years. Well, in September, 4 months later, they put together a cash reserve policy. And they said after 2 years, the first 2 years, they have to have 90 days cash. After the next 2 years, 75. And then the 5th year, 60 days cash. Well, that's 8 days shy of the 52. So now what happens is now those valuations then, in reality, have to come in above the 27.5%. Well, now what they do is through the mass appraisal method, they reverse engineer that. They figure, okay, we need to get this much money in. So was it a coincidence that in our area, in our school district, that the valuation come in at 30%? I mean, and again, that gives our school district an $8.8 million windfall without the vote of the people. And that puts a major strain on the communities. But then what they do is with this mass appraisal method, how they get away with it, because again, who wouldn't want to contest it? Well, it's a third method. Because again, the triennials are every 3 years, the sexennials every 6 years. Well, every 3 years they go by market value, every 6 years they go market value and appraised value. So what they'll do is they play the game. They'll take a third of the communities, first of all, it's every 3 years, so they'll only have a third of the state, third of the counties that will be basically increased at a time. So they can only basically upset a third of the state at a time, which means they never have a majority. Then what they do in the county level, each county, when they do through it, they go a third, a third, a third. For example, 1/3 of the homes will go up a little bit. And their taxes, because they're below the average, the taxes will actually come down because of the factors they use. And then there's another average in the middle that they raise it up a lot more, but then again, their taxes are going to go up. Not enough to contest it, enough to be upset, but then again, they figure, well, my value went way up, so I'm okay. So you have that third. And then you have the third, like me, where they jack it way up, okay? And again, out of those, again, we have no control. And because we're above the average, that's how they get in their money. So what they did this year too, again, with the land, funny we talk about land, they separate the land from the home now. And for example, in my property, my land value was worth $175,000 last year. This year it's worth $370,000 to them. Because with this mass appraisal method, what they do is they don't use normal comps. Like if we have to go contest this, we have to go and get a comp from an appraiser. Well, that appraiser is going to look at our house, our land, comps in the area, and give us a true appraisal of what the house is worth. Well, their mass appraisal method, they never look at the inside, they never look at any of that, they go by general data. But here's the thing is, when they can't find a comp, what they do now to get the land value up, they'll take a most recent sale in the immediate area, and what they'll do is they'll take that and subtract the basic building costs of that home off of that to get a residual land value. Then they take that residual land value and they basically spread it out through everyone. I'm in Timberlake, we have a row of houses on the lake. That went up 68% on an average, okay? And the land, most of the land there went up over 100%. In the community itself, in the rest of the community, every single person's land value on the appraisal went up 20%. And again, what they've done is they're taking this mass appraisal method to reverse engineer. And what they've done this way, because of inflation, to get the prices up, because they can't raise everyone's house ridiculously high, because again, what they're also doing is they're taking houses that have been reconditioned and flipped and using those as comparables to homes that are existing that have never been improved or worked on. So again, this is the whole system is basically rigged in my mind, and it's all to fund the school. So what we need, besides Doge in Ohio, which we do need, because how are we going to fund this? Well, all the money we say that they're looking at saving to eliminate the income tax, that's the money we're going to use. Don't eliminate the income tax, take that money and fund the schools. Because again, we need the schools, and then we need the state to take over, because only the state can make laws against so that the unions have no control, because we can't go to the unions. They're bigger than us, and we have no voice. We have no voice now with the school boards, let alone there's no way we can fight the unions. And the problem is the unions are protecting all the personnel that are in there. And that's where the problem is. You have these administrators making over $100,000 a year, and the assistant administrators making that much also, and then you've got the teachers that are way underpaid. You know, it should be the other way around. You know, and the thing is, what do we need as administrators? And then the other problem is, in our school district, we have one school, Jefferson School, the third grade proficiency in reading is 45%. I mean, and guess what the graduation rate is to fourth grade? 100%. So they pass all these kids. You know, that's a disservice to our children. I mean, again, why aren't these administrators then taking on, you know what, let me go tutor these kids, make sure they can read out of third grade, so when you go to fourth grade, they can do all the reading, writing, arithmetic, and they can read science books, history books. Again, if we don't have the basics, you know, and that's the disservice we're doing, and that's what I'm going to bring up Monday to our school board again, because again, and I'm also going to bring up to them, they didn't have to accept this increase. You know, they put a heavy, heavy burden on the owners, and again, it's every community. Mentor school districts even worse. Their 84% goes to personnel. So I mean, what I'm finding out is every single school district now, we're having a, you know, this is where the problem is, and we need a complete Doge, because again, if we don't control the spending that they're spending, we're never going to fix our property tax problem. Because talking to all the representatives and the senator, and also talking with the governor, you know, the thing is that they have to find the money somewhere. Like I said, there's only three sources, major sources that they have. So if we take it off the property tax, we're going to have to put it on sales and income. But then again, we need a Doge on our